Hey everyone, welcome to the video. And today's video is about a form of writing, a type of poems which we know by the name of elegy. So let's get started. So elegy is, the word elegy is originally not an English word, and it has been borrowed into English from the French word elegy, Latin word elegia, and from Greek word elegia in 16th century. And it refers to any poem which is written in elegiac meter. Now, what is elegiac meter? Elegiac meter is alternating hexameter and pentameter lines. That is, elegy used to be a poem which was written in this particular type of meter. So, hexameter lines, that is lines having 12 syllables, and pentameter lines having 10 syllables. So any poem which would have this meter, any poem which would have one line written in hexameter and one in pentameter, then one in hexameter, one pentameter, so that kind of poem would be known as elegy earlier. This was earlier, but at the same time, apart from the meter of the poem, these poems which were written in this meter, they would have a theme of change and loss, which was frequently expressed in this kind of poems. So ultimately, as time passed, that restriction of meter, it got left behind, and any poem which talked about theme of loss, which talked about grief, it would be referred to as elegy. So in its modern sense, a poem, any poem or song which is written in honor of someone deceased, that is, any poem which you write when you are remembering someone who has died, to lament or mourn their death, and the poem would usually end in consolation. So any poem which you write to honor someone who has died and you are mourning, you are expressing your grief at the death of that person, and ultimately that poem would end in consolation. So that kind of poem would be known as an elegy. So that meter thing is left behind now, and we focus on theme when we refer to any poem as an elegy. So any poem which is written at somebody's death is known by the name of elegy. Now there are three stages of grief that are expressed in an elegy. So this is how the development of emotion is portrayed in an elegy. So the first thing is lament. That is, the writer or the speaker of the poem is lamenting the death of someone who is very close, who is very much loved, and the poem begins in the form of a lament, in the form of mourning. You are grieving the death of some loved one, and then that lament leads to the praise of the person. So you start praising the person. You are lamenting the loss, at the same time you are remembering the person. So when you are remembering, you start talking about the qualities that the person had, and how that person, how his presence changed many things around him, and it had importance in your life. And when you are praising that person, then ultimately you find solace in the fact that he was a nice human being, and though that person has gone, but then his qualities remain and his teachings remain in the world. So these are three stages of grief that are expressed in an elegy. The poem begins by lamenting the loss of someone, then the speaker or the narrator starts praising the person, and then ultimately they find solace even in that loss. So these are three stages of grief in an elegy. And there are different types of elegies. So the first type of elegy is known by the name of a threnody or a dirge. Now a dirge again is a death song, we all know that. But the difference between an elegy and a dirge is that a dirge is short and it is less formal. An elegy is formal song of mourning, but a dirge or a threnody is short, it is less formal, and it is meant to be sung the way elegy is meant to be sung. And another form of elegy is monody. Now monody, the difference between an elegy and monody is that monody is an elegy which is in the form of utterance of a single speaker. So we have talked about monologues. So in the same way, we can say that a monody is a monologue of mourning. You are mourning somebody's death, but in the form of a monologue. The poem is in the form of an utterance of a single person. And the third type of elegy is pastoral elegy. So pastoral elegy is that kind of elegy where the poet and the person who has died, both of them are presented as shepherds. So they might not be shepherd in their real life, but for the sake of creative writing, for the sake of writing poem, or for the sake of writing elegy, the writer takes the role of a shepherd, and he assumes that the dead person is also a shepherd. So both of them are presented as shepherds in a pastoral elegy. So these are three different types of elegies, and this is all that we need to know about elegies. So thank you for watching the video. See you in the next video.